So good afternoon to everyone. And I know that 5 minutes has gone in introduction, so I have got 40 minutes to deal with. Yeah, that's good then. So, and also important is that now after the lunch, I have to make everyone awake, and that's another big challenge. So let's see the challenges in the green logistics. The three big major challenges which I reckon is the greenhouse emission. That is the first thing which we need to tackle. Second is the carbon footprint. That's the other big part. And third thing is how do we manage the waste? There are huge amount of waste generated and all related to cost and efficiency we need to work on. Now when you look at India, in terms of logistics, even ethylene oxide, we don't have a pipeline to transfer. You have a vehicle in front of you which is like a bomb. So we are talking about green logistics. This is the first step of looking at all the hazardous things. Can they be put in a pipeline? The problem is that we are not in clusters. We are very fragmented in the industry. And that is causing a lot of problem in terms of supply chain, in terms of the green logistics, which we are talking about. We need to make things more safer, and the chemical industry will go up. The main thing around chemical industry we need to understand is that we have more of imports than exports. So we have a negative trade balance there. And that is one big thing which has to change, and government will put all energies. I'm working with this chemical and fertilizer ministry also, and the secretariats. A lot of things have been looked at. The moratorium in Ankleshwar and all these areas which is near the Dahej, that also people are looking at to set up plants in near the eastern coast, but a lot of people are not moving there. So our logistics will only improve if we have most of the industries near about. You see Aramco, which is the biggest investment in Saudi, and against near Aramco you'll have so many other units coming up, so the transportation can be avoided, and we really do go in that way. Our factories are not very close to the refineries. And that also is an important area to be looked at. The market situation is going to keep on changing. The geopolitical situation is keep on changing. Now from the fossil fuel, we are looking at more of the mineral-based products. And mineral-based products for green energy is also challenged that whether it is really sustainable. The war is now towards the mineral, not for the oil anymore. And we need to understand this aspect. The whole 17 sustainable goals which are there, how many of that we can fulfill directly into the sustainability angle coming from the logistics and supply chain firms. And this we need to look at what we can do there. How many greenhouse emission is one part, carbon footprint, complexity reduction. But if you all manage it properly with a huge digitalization happening around and the e-commerce taking shape, we have to be careful that this sustainability angle should not be lost. And the fuel is keep on changing, and there are a lot of different kinds of possibilities are there in terms of circularity. The environmental impact, if you look at 28% of the total greenhouse emission is coming from the transportation. 28%, which is huge numbers. And that is what is one of the important topics apart from the factories and other industries. Even the industries are smaller than the transportation in terms of greenhouse emission. The important thing is how you make things safe. So it starts from, the whole process of planning. Now the forecasting is the first step to have your whole logistics and the whole supply chain correct. if you don't do a right forecast, then you're lost. Huh? So you can over forecast, you can under forecast. In both the cases, you have a problem. Either you have to lift it by air, or you have too much of stocks lying in the warehouse, and then burning the fuel of either electricity and just to store them. And that's why the optimization is very important in the whole planning of forecasting. The second part, apart from the forecasting, is also this whole SIOP processes which are there in the companies, whether they are moving towards this green topic too strongly into their goals. Huh? So I don't see that much happening around, that they are really thinking this way, and we need to now induct these things coming in. Purchasing is another part which we need to really take care. How do we, look at different angles of purchases with respect to reusable packaging? That's one part. In what way you're transporting the goods, in terms of also the manufacturing process, which is also influenced by the purchase, and also transportation. And the effectively purchase is also driven by the consumers. Huh? When you look at from the farming to the retail, the amount of energy burned in each chain, in the value chain, is enormous. And each chain has a value to offer in terms of safe and efficient working. And this is going to be another challenge, which I can say that. Green packaging is going to be another area in terms of the green logistics. And how do we take care of the reusable of the packaging part? Now, HDP is one part of it, but also a lot of energy is burned to even produce that. And then how many of us are using recycled HDP drums to transport? Pipeline is one of the best ways to remove the packaging. But then the source and the user in the B2B has to be near. Otherwise, this doesn't work much. The other big challenge which I wanted to communicate is in the area of transportation in terms of effective fuel and the way it is transported. Now we are more on the trucks, and I was also going to an analysis that we have larger trucks. It burns more because the efficiency of the truck in terms of fuel efficiency is not so good. When you same way you transport into smaller vehicles, the efficiency is good. So overall impact on the carbon footprint is much better when you have smaller dispatches than a very big dispatch. In terms of the freight cost, it makes a big difference, but in terms of also the energy which is burned to do that, we need to take care of that. So green transportation becomes the challenge, and there are also vehicles I have seen now with solar panels on the vehicle hoods and the body of the vehicle, whether that can help in a kind of a hybrid technology by using this. When you look at now rail transportation, which is not explored in India, the transportation by way of water transportation, what we call, is strongly in Europe. The whole of Rhine is movement of goods. When you look at chemical industry, the BSFs of the world now are struggling because the Rhine water levels have gone down. And they can get into forced merger if this is not working. So that has been exploited. We have huge amount of rivers around, but we have not exploited that. Train is 1/4 the cost of the trucks when you look at it. But are we really looking at seriously? I mean, internationally in many countries, the rail movements or freight movements are very big. We have not yet explored that part, and I feel government is also pushing a lot to get into the analysis of these elements and to make it happen. So this is going to be another area to be looked at. And when you look at the size of the road transportation is at least 50% of the total transportations. And we don't have the roads to transport them. We have so much of potholes. The speed is not there. The whole infrastructure has to be built on to make it more greener in terms of these energies and also the carbon footprints which are around. So with these words, I would ask now Joseph to start the whole session. I'll sit there anyway, don't worry. If you want to speak from here, it's fine. And I will ask him now on the procurement side, what are the suggestions, what are the solutions to move forward? and this will help us. Huh? So, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you, Anjani sir. And yeah, Anjani sir connected with me yesterday. If you could on this topic of green logistics, if you could talk more on the procurement side. So I would glad to take this opportunity. Yeah, and also know the session after lunch and the session before lunch are equally challenging. So I try to make it a bit more comforting to all of you all. So at the outset, the companies in the specialty chemicals, they need to take concrete measures to reduce the environmental impact on their business and operations. So it is imperative for such companies to focus on reducing the carbon footprint without compromising on the product quality and the customer comfort. So specialty companies, they must focus on being a contributor to the zero discharge of hazardous chemicals and also support the sustainable chemistries, which also results in protecting the consumers, workers, and the environment. So now coming from the procurement function, what exactly can we do in this green procurement or green sustainability? So generally in Arcoma, sustainable procurement, it goes beyond the traditional, the financial evaluation. It also involves taking into consideration the environmental goals and the social benefits. So for a typical procurement organization, any procurement organization, it may be difficult to switch immediately to a greener product or a service. So, but what could be done? The goal of the procurement department should be to improve compared to their current product or service. So the path adopted or the option they select can be relatively better compared to the current. It may not be the greenest, but can be greener compared to the product or service being sourced currently. So a brief on Arcoma, as I think as some of you must be knowing, Arcoma is a global color and specialties chemical company committed to innovation, world-class quality standards, high service levels, cost efficiency, and sustainability. Mr. Anjani Prasad, as you all know, is the managing director of this company. So what procurement has done in the last four years, especially on the green procurement and sustainability, we joined this EcoVadis program in 1998. And of course, we now have a platinum rating for that. So basically, just for the clarification of some people, EcoVadis is a collaborative online platform which enables suppliers to maintain their sustainable performance. So we joined this in 1998, but as on today, we have globally 800 suppliers who are enrolled into this Arcoma EcoVadis program, which comprise more than 90% of the direct spend. And based on this, we have an algorithm, the ASSR rating, based on the findings of the EcoVadis program, where the suppliers are rated from 1 to 5. So generally, for the 1 rating, it's a poor rating. The suppliers are given time to improve. Others, we just discontinue buying from them. And suppliers with the highest rating of 5, we in fact try to learn from them. They're outstanding. So besides this, we are also part of this 37 conglomerate of multinational companies who are part of this TFS program, which we joined since 2021. So TFS is basically, it delivers the global standard for environmental, social, and governance performance of chemical supply chains. So unlike this EcoVadis, which is more of an online audit, TFS also has a physical audit. And depending on the number of employees in the organization, the man days of audits are also finalized. So in India, in the past 2 years, we have already audited, we had this physical TFS audit for nearly about 50% of our suppliers, and our goal is, to at least complete 80% suppliers in the next 2 years for the TFS. So besides this, Arcoma also supports the industry's leading environmental and consumer standards, that is Blue Sign, EOTEX, GOTS, and etc. So on an ongoing basis, what we do is, when we do the review of the spend analysis, we understand the specifications and we research, for greener alternatives. And we normally engage with vendors only who are having strong credentials for sustainability. So instead of just conveying the specifications to the vendor, we also, share the functional requirement of the product. So, the vendors also, this allows the vendor to be creative instead of just following the specifications. Transportation related, Janiji has already mentioned in his inaugural speech where we do on this, we reuse the packaging, the IBC packaging, then we go for bulk. And also we have our supply chain and SIOP teams where we have this ongoing discussions on a weekly basis, how to have optimum inventories at our factory, which also contributes to the greener procurement. So, yeah, so in short, the benefits of this green procurement, one is, obviously it helps in improving the risk management capabilities that may arise either due to the customers or the company brand. So this initiative helps in identifying and screening suppliers that may pose a reputational risk, such as some of the manufacturers, they can use toxic material, or we could even have a supply chain partner, who's using child labor. So it helps in identifying all these things. Carbon-regulated materials markets are gradually increasing, and suppliers, they'll face additional carbon costs in future. So majority of this product-related emissions are occurring for companies outside their operational boundary. So suppliers with high carbon footprints are exposed to the risk of increased operational cost and could even face a shutdown. So the sustainable procurement-related initiatives will help the companies prepare for the looming regulatory environment and explore long-term saving opportunities. And nowadays, even the institutional investors, they are also gradually considering sustainability in the procurement and supply as part of the valuation of the company's medium to long-term prospects. So specific sustainability-related metrics are also included in their portfolio allocations. So this, in short, is about the procurement part I would like to highlight. Thank you.
Now, it's important that in procurement also, the things we are buying from the vendors, one is the audit part, which is there. But I have seen that even the certifications and the MSDS is all not really having a backup. And when you go and deep dive into the MSDS part, you will find a horror there. It's mostly copied. 16 elements which are there. I've seen companies with 60 elements. So that is one area of improvement. So let's come to Mandar, in terms of the various challenges which are there and the cost benefits and the drivers of the supply chain. And then how this whole transportation, different modes, what could be the right options and what could be the next step?
So, yeah, thanks, Anjani. It's a very new topic as such, green logistics. It is good that we have started in talking on this field basically. If you see, what do you mean by green logistics? It's a basically balance between the ecology and economy. Now, in case of ecology means it will have socio factors, it will have environmental factors. Economy is again related to finances. So, for any typical FMCG companies like I worked in Pidilite, it's a big networking company. We had almost 45 plants. We had 3 RDCs, 40 were depots. We had 15,000 retail customers. So this is for any typical FMCG company, the spread is very wide in terms of number of SKUs also are more than 3 to 4,000. So the entire supply chain involves a lot of cost in case of FMCG, as you are aware. So it might be warehousing cost, transportation cost and all. So as rightly told by Mr. Anjani, it starts right from the demand forecasting and supply forecasting. The cost will start, the cost determination will start from that. So how it has been done is basically how you are converting your load into the full truck loads, how you are forming your warehouses, how strategically you are locating the warehouses to the nearer to the customers, how you are reducing the freight, and how you are converting more load into the full truck load and all kind of things. So here, if you try to optimize the warehouse space, if you try to optimize the transport vehicles, if you upgrade the transport vehicle sizes to higher size, obviously you will carry more tonnages at a lesser cost. So that is one of the key element when you transport the goods from the warehouses to your networking channel. It is important to go closer to the customer, so your secondary cost is also should be lesser. So in that case, how you are doing the networking in the how you are doing the network mapping of the customers to your cluster of the depots from there the goods are supplied. So this is also determines the freight cost. So here basically the thing is again EV vehicles are lesser in case of FTLs. They are not much currently operating in India, but it will need lot of infrastructure for higher tonnage vehicles. Smaller vehicles are there in case of e-commerce industries, but then higher it will take some time. What one can do is that what industries can come together is they can come together, they can consolidate their warehouses, they can consolidate the vehicle sizes, they can upgrade the vehicle sizes, wherein the cost per kilometer per kg can go down. Also, the carbon emission will also definitely go down, because if you are if you are reducing the count of the vehicles with the help of good infrastructure, with the help of good hubs, warehousing hubs, and if you are going for a bigger size vehicles, obviously the count of vehicles might go down, but then tonnages carried will be more. So that that particular balance can be struck. You can always rely on the rail network for chemical products, like you can go into you can do properly wagon bookings. You can schedule your dispatches in such a way that your wagons and all are rightly full. You have been given to to the rail operators, and you can combine. You can consolidate the loads. Here again, the challenge is you need to have frequent dispatches and routes for these rail connectivities. So it might happen that it might get delayed also in certain cases. So that is one of the things. In case of other challenges, I would say higher number of PTL load. In case of FTL, it will increase more vehicles on the road, and it will again emit more carbon dioxide. So it is important to consolidate the load and send it through a higher vehicle. So e-commerce industries, so again it is a trade-off between customer satisfaction. Customer want the deliveries within 24 hours. So you have no choice but to send it to the part load or through a special vehicle. So by this way the number of vehicles can increase. So there is a certainly it's a decision making factor for companies to decide whether to consolidate the load, or whether to consolidate the demand, or it is to be sent it and on the last mile kind of, or as per requirement basis. These are the few challenges what we have, and as I said, important thing is that industries has to come together. They have to consolidate the load. They have to come together and share the load, or share the vehicles, share the warehousing infrastructure, where you can have big hubs. You can have solar panels. You can install in the larger warehousing hubs, wherein it can be energy can be developed, renewable energy can be developed, and standardization is also one of the important things. Standardization of pallets, rackings, vehicle plying between the depots. So that also can help you in terms of cost reduction. So these are the basic few challenges and the solutions what industry can look at, in fact.
Looking at the load of this, how much supply chain or logistic companies put on the greenhouse emission, it's important that every company should come out with the KPIs. They should have KPIs for improvement in each area. There are two ways. One is the KPI towards the greenhouse and also the energy or carbon footprint. Second KPI is on the benefits in terms of money. And that part of the KPI, there are a lot of BI tools, digitalization and a lot of things on traceability. Everything is happening. But when I see it for more detail, it's not been fully adopted. Everyone is not trained. They know it can be done, but there is no governance there in terms of a KPI set for a supply chain head, saying that you have to reduce this much of carbon footprint by transportation. And many companies may have that. We have KPIs also in production in terms of energy and the landfill and various things. But where are the KPIs also for the supply chain? This is where the efficiency can improve. Now I go to Mahindra now, mainly onto the circularity and also the various things which can be done, and what are the big suggestions there in terms of making this whole supply chain more effective, more efficient, more greener.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. So, just to bring in the perspective right for every one of us, because green logistics is something which will not come automatically to the companies. It has to be driven from somewhere. So if you look at around, the chemical companies as of today have started taking the climate neutrality topic as their targets. Now climate neutrality is always for chemical companies or any other companies will be mainly scope 1, scope 2, which is basically their own emissions, the emissions coming, the sourcing of their energy. Scope 3, so just giving example of my own company. So Lanxess declared the climate neutrality in 2020, that we want to achieve the climate neutrality by 2040. And that was only scope 1 and scope 2. Now it's only now, just few months back, that we have decided to go for net zero, which is scope 3. And scope 3 is where the green logistics topic will come. Because that's where we are, as a whole community, we have to think that who drives first the green logistics? It is the companies first, and then also the stakeholders in the whole ecosystem. So in green logistics, if I have to talk about, so just to give numbers, giving India topic to it. So if you see the statistics as of today, the overall emissions of India, 14% is contributed by transportation. So transportation as a whole, so be it rail, road, and out of that 14%, 90% is road transportation. So when we have to tackle, the green logistics has to first hit the road transportation because that's where the biggest contributor lies. Then we have to also think that how we are going to drive it. Because obviously when we talk about the road transportation of this big number, are we really ready for that kind of change or are we somewhere starting at all? Because if we don't start, obviously it will not have any kind of momentum to it. So now we talk about the road transportation, so let's talk about trucks. As of today, we are having that still tussle going between BS4 and BS6. And huge difference of the emissions coming out of these trucks. Now when we talk about emissions coming out of trucks, whether companies, be it LSPs, I'm also talking from LSPs, and be it the companies, do we have really any measures or any mechanism where you are really measuring it? Because unless you measure, you will not be able to really take any actions. So first is to understand that how we are going to measure our emissions coming out of the logistics setup that we are having. So the transportation setup that I may be having a raw material coming in, whether there is any measure by my supplier that he measures the emissions coming out of my transportation. So when we start doing it, then only there is the step to really go into taking some improvements. Now, taking this to the technology topic. So obviously, you can't have a measurement on a pen and paper that you really have this truck going from 1 to B, and then he has emitted that much of CO2. It's not going to be like that. So obviously there are some players, and this is something which I would say a boon for India, where a lot of startups are coming up with ideas which a lot of us don't think right away. So there are companies which are coming up with these services which are actually giving you the solution to measure your carbon footprints coming out of your transportation setup. And there, the technology has to be really utilized, because then the willingness from the management of the company has to be throughout the stakeholders. So be it so when you talk about stakeholders, obviously there has to be buy-in from everyone. So I want my supplier, I want my LSP, everyone to really step up and contribute. So in that situation, you have to really start looking at the numbers, decide your baseline. Unless you decide your baseline that, okay, this is my baseline for, say, last year. So we as Lanxess have taken a baseline of 2015, wherein we want to reduce our footprints based on 2015. So let's decide baseline. So LSPs can have their own baselines. The companies can have their own baselines. And then based on that, we work step by step. Now coming to the road trucks. So 90% or even more globally are running on fossil fuels. So that's where we have to bring another aspect to it, that if a fossil fuel, if I save a little fuel, I'm reducing that much of impact. So there comes the aspect of also route optimization. So if one truck is going from point A to point B, if there is a reduction of 2 kilometers by having an optimal route, obviously that's adding up to my green logistics topic. Also, a completely different aspect to it, or a perspective to it, is about having drivers who are really thinking about safety as a topic. Because if they are conscious about the safety topics, they will not really engage themselves into unsafe driving behavior, which can also, so for example, if a driver is continuously overspeeding, he is also eventually contributing to more fuel consumption. And that is something which has to be inculcated into the drivers as well. So there are different topics that has to be linked together. All the stakeholders has to really come one by one step up that yes, we want to contribute here. And this is obviously, as you mentioned about circular economy and circular supply chain, then the entire stakeholders can start working in. So it can be bringing in my used HMHDP drums back, bringing my reusable packaging in place. So all those things, and then again, all supply chain stakeholders can really step in. So it's time first to understand where the decision making will start, and then also those who can take immediate decisions. So for example, LSPs sitting here in this hall, they can already start thinking that we have to step up and start giving solutions to the chemical industry. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I was also looking at somewhere that if you have the right air pressure in the trucks for the tires, you can save 3 to 4% of the fuel. So even that small thing can matter in terms of more detailing, and there's a lot of things can be done. So I'll go to Milind now. I mean, with this experience and knowledge, especially around the green fuels and also some innovations which we can do here.
So good afternoon all. So before we talk about green logistics or green supply chain, I will just touch upon the logistic part. One is logistic as we talk about the improving the efficiency and to bring down the cost. But when we talk about the green logistics, it is something related to change of fuel from the traditional fossil fuels which we are using to something green fuels which we talk about, say hydrogen or any biofuels. But before that, what is in our hand as of now? So better, I would say better driver utilization, maybe change of mode of transport. And third thing is reducing the mileages with better route optimization. So these are the low-hanging fruits, I would say, where we can all work together till we get some solution on the fuel part. So another thing is like we talk about the fuel part. Like as of now, all industries or the transportation goes with the fossil fuel. And for that, the feedstock is obviously the crude. But when we talk about the green fuel, it could be the hydrogen, it could be the maybe biofuels and all, where feedstock is more sustainable and naturally replenished one. So how you will get that biofuels? So biofuels, considering the as of now or all the automobile combustion system what we have, I think hydrogen will take some time because it has to go some modifications that automobile industry has to support all those things. So it will be a policy decision for that the government is working on it. And last year, I think on 15th August 21, Mr. Modi has rolled out some hydrogen energy roadmap, how to drive that particular clean energy fuel over the coming years. But with respect to biofuels, yes, we can say that all this feedstock which has been used for all biofuels is a kind of, it is not going through all ecological system or a huge ecological cycle, what has been all fossil fuel is going as of now. It takes years. But with respect to biofuels, yeah, we can say that maybe in replenishment cycle of that feedstock is better compared to crude, which is there as of now. So these are the challenges, but green fuel will be the future because if you see the benefits, like if you say any customer would like to go with a company which is associated or which is taking care of climate or the environment other than minting money or making a profit. So basically all that benefits like, having more social awareness, then having more reputation or the brand value, which are the kind of thing which organization can go and advertise themselves, yes, they are going for the clean fuel or the green energy kind of green fuels, I would say. But as of now, considering the other fuels like hydrogen and all, which we are talking about, a lot of discussions are going in India as well as in abroad. But it will take some time. But as I mentioned, like what is in our hand, which can be achievable, I think we can focus on it. And obviously, in the first session also, we heard from Dr. Yadav, which are the immediate kind of action plan we can have it in, which is in our hand. And definitely the industries can collaborate, exchange their thoughts to have some kind of roadmap till we have the actual clean fuel in hand for our all transportation business. So for other small vehicles and all, you can see a lot of EV vehicles are there, and all now the government is also giving more so this kind of approvals for the ethanol blending and all. So that actually that activities are going on. But again, the EV has their own challenges with respect to recharging station, and even getting the electricity in India is also, as of now, it is more of a coal base, which is again adding to the pollution. That we are not considering to have a proper trade-off compared to fossil fuels and clean fuels or the green fuels, I would say. So that journey is there, but definitely a lot of things needs to be conceptualized and work upon with respect to cost and benefit analysis. But yes, on environmental plus, yes, there is a scope and we have to work on that particular green energy or the green fuel part of it. So that is my submission.
Thank you. I mean, there's also on the electricity and the green vehicles, which are chargeable, this battery based. There are also corridors now being looked at where you have the electricity, like the trains are moving with the electricity, even the vehicles will have the charging online. Huh? So that could be the next step. Green hydrogen, which you was talking about, is going to be the future, at least from the Indian, ambition perspective. 100 billion investment by Reliance, 100 billion by maybe Adani. There's a 400 billion, project which has been made, and this will make us a bit self-reliant because we can't also survive by importing gas and oil. Huh? So that our trade deficits are really going in the wrong direction apart from this. And the fuel pressure is very important because of the carbon emission, and not only carbon, the greenhouse, which is causing the global warming. So the global warming, the 1.5 degrees centigrade, which you all know, is the next step to that it should not increase that much. And if it increases, Mumbai will be underwater. Huh? And you can see what's happening with the havoc of all these various thunderstorms and floods around and the seasons which is changing. That destroys more in terms of the money value. You see what happened in Pakistan. 30% of the whole country is destroyed. Now how much of billion of dollars you require to construct that part? So we have to really look at the balance between what we can do for the environment and what we need to spend by changing over the way we operate. Now, if we don't do that, then the global warming is going to be the major problem for us. So, but what I see also in the value chain, all these chemicals which we have, end of the day, it goes to a consumer-based topic. Now, either it is textiles or either it is paint or anything. Now, if the consumer is not willing to pay for it, the whole process of sustainability is going for a toss. So the cost drives, and if the cost drives, sustainability will not come. So there has to be regulation, and without regulation, it will not work. So I mean, with the limited time which we have, I would ask if there are any questions, because we come to that. I would have given more time for the panelists, but then, as was told, that about 40 minutes or 45 minutes, I see 11 minutes remaining. Huh? Is that okay or 11 minutes? Huh? 6 minutes. Huh? Okay. Yeah, please. Can you come on the mic so that our panelists can listen? I'm sorry? No, on the mic. With the mic.
Hi. I just wanted to check, how do you see the multimodal as part of the solution for the green? Fundamentally, do you see it in the scheme of the green, or is it something the solution has to be well within in terms of the road transport, which we are talking about?
Shankar, I would say that's the lowest hanging fruit, I would say. So when you talk about multimodal, then you already identify something which is possibly can be converted into multimodal. So just to give an example, so coming from my own organization, we have exports from Nagda to Navashiva. The, the earlier few years back, it was completely road transportation. Then we converted almost 650 kilometers of it to rail transportation. So just the first mile from the plant to the ICD location and from the ICD location inside the port is only the road transportation required. So multimodal definitely is the solution as of now, which is definitely going to add a lot of reduction in your carbon footprints. And I think that's the way forward for sure. India is partially ready, I would say.
Hello. I would like to add, see, multimodal is always good. I mean, rail transportation will definitely reduce the cost. But there is also one other side also. You need to have road transportation first, then again rail transportation, again road transportation. So there is a lot of material handling which happens. At 3 times you have to handle the material. I have had not a very good experience, but then yes, there is a lot of damages which happens in case of chemical consignments. There are a lot of mix up which happens, lot of interchange deliveries happens if it is not properly managed. So multimodal is really good, but it has to be managed very well through rail, because you are actually handling the consignment 3 times. By road you are giving loading at the warehouse, it is going at the yard. Again, you are loading in the wagon, you are unloading it, you are again loading in a truck, and then it will reach. So that particular aspect in case of chemical is somewhat sensitive. So it is better to send it on point to point kind of thing, vehicle.
When you look at in the past, I mean, the coal factories, they always had the rail line inside. Their factories. This is where we need to really look at the way we structure and infrastructure has to be developed, and the chemical industry has to come nearer. Then only we can move around. Any more questions?
Yeah, probably I think I wear the hat of both. But coming back to what you asked, as well as whether the industry is willing to accept the cost which is going to built in initially in the drive of achieving a green energy efficient logistics as a chemical industry. So I think that's a question which I would like to pose it onto the customers, because anything which has to have a starting, and starting is not going to be into a matured environment. When it's not matured environment, there will be additional cost breakdown, which will have to be passed on to the industry and to be shouldered by the industry.
So Pavi, on this topic, basically, I mean, as an organization, and this question also came to me when my organization announced the Scope 3. So very blunt question which I asked to the MD is, are we going to get budgets for this? And the heartening thing was the answer was yes. So basically, whenever we have ambitious targets to reach net zero, obviously companies will have to consider costs, because everything which is going to be green is not going to be cheap. It will have a lot of premium attached to it. So obviously that's something which companies have to consider.
Until it is not regulated, things will not move. And as I said, the consumer has to pay. But if it is regulated, automatically the price goes up. If you are making a price war, nothing will change. That's a problem. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Any last minute question? So if not, then I will conclude. It was a good session. I hope that you got some glimpses of what could be the next step within your organizations and your customers and vendors and stakeholders to take it to another level of green logistics. And I thank all the panelists. Did a great job, two of them maybe last minute, both of them here, but they could contribute well. Thank you very much.